Sometimes in life, things don't always go as planned, and the same thing applies to fantasy baseball. So sometimes players, take a dump one year, and then the next year they bounce back, and that's what we are covering today. We have some great names for you, like Walker Buehler, Nolan Jones, and much more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly, truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And lastly, most importantly to you guys and Matt and I this time of year, join us on the Subtext platform. If you aren't already there with, draft season right around the corner, pretty much already here for some of us, drafting this weekend, others over the next couple of weeks. Joining us on Subtext is going to be your secret weapon to winning your fantasy leagues, or at least helping you win your draft. You can ask Matt and I all of your keeper and dynasty questions on there, and as I said, you're going to get text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes. So if you are interested, the link is in our bio wherever you're listening or watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. And all right, Matt, we jump into things here today, talking about bounce back players. We go jump out of our ranking review episodes. If you haven't checked any of those out, there's any position that you need a little bit of help with, Matt and I got you covered with every one of our position previews, ranking preview episodes. But today we take a step in a different direction. And Matt, is there any player specifically that you are thinking might bounce back in 2025?
All right, so this one is a guilty pleasure. Okay. If you were going into last year before 2 years ago, actually, when we first joined Locked On, I was really high on him, and unfortunately went down to TJ, and that's Walker Buehler of the now, Boston Red Sox, and I love it. I love seeing Walker Buehler on the rise. He's having a really great spring. Everything seemed to be in lining up. On top of that, what he did during the postseason last year really gets me going. You look at what he's done, throughout the postseason after, pretty much being out all year, not being able to really stay, perform well at all because he had the season numbers of a 5.38 ERA with a whip of 1.53. And then for him to get into the postseason and really just get her going, because the ERA over the last two games was phenomenal. And even over the whole, postseason, he finished with a 3.04 ERA. The first two starts over at in the playoffs weren't hot with a 10 ERA and a 6 ERA, but those last two through 5 innings, he had a 3.86 ERA, and then through one in the final game of game 5 of the World Series, unfortunately, a 3.6 ERA. Was looking real good. He handled his business. He was looking kind of closer to what he's been. It just took a little bit to get going, and I think that's possible. Walker Buehler, as somebody that has had I would say a pretty good career. I wouldn't say like phenomenal, but since being up and really, taking the bull by its horn and becoming one of the elite pitchers in the league, just starting in 2019, he has just been solid. 182 innings pitched and 215 strikeouts with a 3.26 ERA. Followed that up. COVID year don't count, but the 2021 year, killing it with a 2.47 ERA over 207 innings with 212 strikeouts. And 22 went down. That's the year he really got hurt, and was looking good that year until the injury started kicking in. And last year just couldn't get her done. But I think full year, 2 years removed from the Tommy John, I think might do him right. And I think that quite honestly, he's moving up my draft board. ADP has him at SP 70. I have him at pitcher 66, so I'm not too far off. But he's a guy that I think can bounce back. That's coming at a good price that I think we need to target at the end of our drafts. Pitcher 70 is like SP, like almost 7 or 8 at that point. Can't really pass on that. I'm taking that all day long.
Yeah, Matt, you hit the nail on the head. I'm actually right in line with ADP. I have Bueller ranked as pitcher 70 as well. You did a great breakdown on it, Matt. Honestly, I really don't have too much else to add other than, yeah, he's a great dart throw at the end of your draft right now. And we might see ADP move up a little bit. Matt, did you give off the spring training stats so far for Walker Bueller?
I have not, but I have him right here.
Yeah, I got him 2 innings, 4 strikeouts, no walks so far. He's struck out 4 of the 8 batters he's faced. He's only given up 1 hit, and he's looked good. So I honestly think there's a lot of upside here. So once again, great dart throw at the end of your drafts. I could see him moving up draft boards a bit, for sure. Let's move on to this next guy. Let's move on to one of my bounce back candidates. Let's talk some Nolan Jones of those Colorado Rockies, right? Huge expectations for Nolan Jones heading into the 2024 season. He only wound up playing 79 games due to multiple injuries. Didn't really look good, right? Here's the thing. He's still only going to be 2020. He's only going to be 27 in 2025, this upcoming season. I still think he could be the same type of player. Sometimes injuries linger, but he's healthy going into spring training. He's out there playing. The stats haven't looked great so far, but the big thing is that he's on the field playing. The power upside's real, has a 25 to 30 home run upside. I think closer to 30, especially playing most of his half his games in Coors. The speed is legit, 25 steal upside, maybe even a little bit higher as well. He's a legit guy that can hit 275. I don't want to say too much higher than that. The Rockies team, the counting stats might not be great, but if you get a 30 home run, 25 steal guy with, let's say, 75 runs, 80 RBIs, 275 batting average, he's not killing you. Right now, I know the price is not bad at all as I swing over to, outfielder here. Nolan Jones is coming off the board currently, according to Fantasy Pros, as outfielder 64. That's pick 258, so it's not a big investment at all. And to get a guy at that point that has good power upside, good steals upside, after pick 250, I'm loving it. I personally have Nolan Jones ranked as outfielder 45, so you're talking about almost a 20-spot difference. I really, really love Nolan Jones coming into this 2025 season.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Like when it comes to Nolan Jones, like there's always that upside, like you spoke about. I'm pretty excited for it. The back injury, just stop hanging out with Chris Bryant, and I think we'll be fine there. And the knee soreness, that's another one that kind of slowed you down. And we may have not seen the stolen base numbers that I think he could also accomplish. So with Nolan Jones, I mean, he's a fair shot. He's going cheap as nails too. So let's just somebody you want to target, somebody that can give you depth and has the positional eligibility to just be valuable. Worst case, what happens, right? You drop him after the first week and a half. It's whatever it's going to cost. It's pretty much a free 99 pick. You got to take a lottery ticket at the end of the draft. Nolan Jones could be that lottery ticket that can actually pay off and finish, at a top, 60 to 50 player and be really ridiculous. That Coors Field is something that is an up, so might as well take advantage of it. But let's move on. Let's talk about my next guy here, Ozzie Albies of the Atlanta Braves. I don't know why I'm having so many brain farts. It's called having children. It's not brain rot, it's children rot. It just rots it. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, Ozzie Albies of the Atlanta Braves. The whole team as a whole took like a kind of like a back step. Just really wasn't great. And Albies pretty much just getting hurt at that point too. Last year wasn't wonderful. He went on the IL in July 22nd and then came back at some point. Whatever. He just didn't have a year that we would expect out of him, right? He only managed to play a grand total of 99 games, missed about 60 games. And, through the 399 at bats, he still had 52 runs, 29 doubles, a triple, 10 home runs, 53 ribs, 8 stolen bases, batted 251. The batting average definitely took a hit. He's been pretty much like up and down, but he's a career 270 hitter. And it's kind of like I don't think we'll ever see like a 280 season. I think 265, 270 is a fair expectation of him. But 250 you're never mad at. But the power really dipped in those regards. He's had, 23 where he finished with 33 home runs, 21 where he finished with 30. 22 was another injury-riddled season. But, I'm going to give him a pass. He's still like my number 2 second baseman on the year. I think he's going to be just fine and going to be incredible. I haven't heard anything bad about his injury or anything like that, just knowing that he's coming back from one. Spring training hasn't looked so hot yet, but he's somebody I still think that, by the time we get going and get cooking for opening day, my guy is going to be just fine. So Ozzie Albies is somebody we can't overlook going into this year. And, yeah, the hype is all about Ketel Marte as, the guy right after Mookie Betts on Yahoo platforms. If not, it's pretty much Ketel. Ketel has just as long as an injury, list as the scrolls over in Alexander's library. It's atrocious. So, Ozzy Albies or him, I'm going to go with the consistency, the team around him, just taking a full positive regression going into 2025. And before I allow Dom to have his take, anything of that sort, we'll be right back after this. And looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into that good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein. Okay, and we are back, and we are rocking and rolling. And, before I give Dom a little bit back on the thing, I just want to say this. If you're looking for a little boost going into this draft season, you're going to want to check us out over on the Subtext and become a member of the Diamond Club. Look, you don't want to miss out on this. Quite honestly, you're going to have access to our rankings, everything under the sun, and direct access to us as any questions that you may have go leading up to your draft. So it's not something you want to miss out. Links in the description below. You get a free 2 weeks just for joining, so check it out. And stick around for the last 2 minutes of the show, and you're going to find out how to get in that listener league. There's your carrot. Listen to the whole episode. Now, Dom, go for it, bro.
Yeah, I'm with you on Ozzy Albies. I'll say this, though. I wish the price was a little bit cheaper. Fourth, second baseman, which I love, but it's still pick 49. The price is a little bit rich for my blood. I still think he's going to be great. I still think he's going to have a really good season. I'm interested to see what the Braves do with the lineup, with the addition of Profar, with everybody being healthy, with Harris, Albies, Riley, everyone healthy. I kind of want to see who's going to hit first. There's a chance it's Albies. There's a chance it's Harris. Roster Resource has Profar listed first, which I hope they don't do. I like Profar. I don't like him that much, though. That's really going to dictate the counting stats. But like Matt said, if you look back at the 2023 for Albies, monster year, I don't think he does that again. But can he hit 270? Of course he can. Can he give you around 30 home runs? Sure. The counting stats could look really good in that lineup. And can you count on him for close to 10 steals? Yeah, it's about what he does. So I really like the profile. I just wish the price was a little bit cheaper, especially after the down injured year last year. But you know what? You have to pay the price for a guy with the kind of track record like Albies. I don't mind it if you do want to take him there. You know what? I do believe in the bounce back as well, Matt. And I think it's a great transition. Let's move into my next bounce back. Another Atlanta Brave dealt with injuries as well. It's Austin Riley. Austin Riley, if you guys haven't been watching the mock draft episodes, Matt and I are paying the price every time for him because he's been on pretty much every mock draft episode, 3rd round. Great price for the profile of a guy like Austin Riley. Pick 31 right now, 5th third baseman. I love it. I have him a little bit higher than that. I have him as my third baseman going into 2025. Riley, we had 3 straight years of him proving, who he is. Like I said, dealt with the injuries last year, only got in 110 games. But the 3 years before that, if you take the average of them, right, it's looking real good for Austin Riley. If Baseball Reference wants to work with me, but I'll do it off the top. It's about 35 home runs. It's about almost 100 RBIs. It's almost 100 runs. It's about a 280-ish batting average, and that's if you take the 3 seasons from 2021 to 2023 combined for Austin Riley. He's really showed us who he is. I think he's one of the most consistent guys in the game. He's got something to prove coming back into 2025. He's only going to be 28 years old. I love everything about Austin Riley, and I think he's going to be, somebody that we're talking about next year as potentially a 2nd round pick.
Yeah, I mean, a guy that also missed a good chunk of the season, only played 110 games. You can't really fault him on it, but the pace was actually really good. You think about it, right? Like, he still had about 52 more games to go, and 50 more games to go, and he's at 19 home runs. He's at 56 ribs and 63 runs. I think the only thing he probably could have complained about was the batting average with the pace. Riley may have not been the consistent guy you wanted for the whole season with the draft price you paid, but nothing says otherwise that he can't do it and bounce back really nicely for this year. and everything under the hood is absolutely wonderful. So, wholeheartedly, he's coming at a discount this year, so draft him everywhere. This next guy is a little bit more on the, let's just say, controversial. Okay. This is not a matter of can he bounce back, it's can he stay healthy. And it's our boy Royce Lewis. Can Royce Lewis figure out how to not end up in the ER next to Alberto Montesi? Then now Byron Buxton, the Chris Bryant and his back. The list goes on. And I can cross sports too, but I'm not going to do it. But Royce Lewis, man, I know you like donating to hospital bills and getting your own wing in the hospital, but my guy, can we please just stay healthy? That's the only thing I really have a gripe with in his batting average last year. When he was healthy, he was a stud and a half. Look, the guy only played 82 games last year and hit 16 home runs. That's a little bit more than a half, like 2 games more than a half a season, and was on a 32 home run pace. He was on a little over 90 rib pace and an 80 run pace at this point if you were to just double everything, which you could. The only thing that sucks was his batting average, and everything kind of screams, hey, he's still coming back from injury. He's just trying to chase and get in rhythm. But when he was great, he was great. Now, he wasn't consistent either. This came in large bunches. This was not like, hey, he was like this picture of consistency every time he played. No, things still hampered him, and it's still ugly. But here's the thing, though. There's a whole nother level to Royce Lewis's game. If we actually get him in a full season, he hasn't really been somebody that's ran in the bigs yet. And that's something that actually he has in his repertoire. If you look in the minors, he's had seasons where he's had, very, very hefty stolen base seasons, 22, 28 seasons before coming in. And then 28, 20, 18. The dude has wheels. I'm sorry. I'm actually reading the wrong category. 22 and 28. I apologize. Losing my mind here. But my boy Royce Lewis just has a whole nother level to him. He could be a top end player if he really just chooses to stay healthy. Who would have thought that, let me hit a home run and then hit a double in the first game of the season and then get a hamstring injury and be out for 2 months would have just been the reality of Royce Lewis last year. So the draft price is a little rich for my blood, but if he's falling because of people feeling burned, that is where I'm willing to strike the iron while it's hot. So keep an eye out for Royce Lewis. And if he is falling in your draft, he's somebody you might want to consider taking because of the upside, not because of health or anything else. This is a risky play. But guess what? You pick Royce Lewis, just pick Josh Young later to back him up. And I think he'll be able to put a good season together with the two.
Matt, that's actually a great point there. If you take Royce Lewis, back him up. That's definitely a great strategy there. I'll say this. I like Royce Lewis a good amount too, and I think the price is pretty right this year. It's right now Fantasy Pros ADP has him as the 10th third baseman, which is pick 105. I like that. It's not bad.
Oh, he fell. All right.
I do want to say this though. The thing that scares me about Royce Lewis a little bit is the injury starting to catch up with him, as you said, and I think the wear and tear. He's only going to be 26 this year. I think that's catching up with him a little bit too, and causing some of the decline that we saw last year. As you mentioned, he didn't run it all last year in the 82 games. I think Minnesota wants to keep him healthy. I think he wants to stay healthy, and then even the sprint speed did take a dip last year. I know we talk about injuries, but Royce Lewis is a guy that's been dealing with injuries his whole career. So to see the sprint speed take a dip that bad last year, I don't like that. I think that just means he's holding back in general because, that means he just doesn't want to get hurt. So I don't know if we see that speed, but can he be a 30-plus home run guy with some good counting stats and 260, 270 batting average? Sure. Love it. There is another level, as you mentioned. I don't know if we see that. I would love to. Just don't know if that's still in the cards for him, but I think there's a small percentage chance that we could see that from Royce Lewis. And before Matt potentially jumps back in and has a chance to talk about why he loves Royce Lewis so much, we have a quick ad break for you guys. We'll be right back.
All right. And looking for a snack that both is delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, period. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're even packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep you fuller longer. personally, I love the no-shellless variety. Honestly, I do. It's phenomenal. It's great. Perfect grab-and-go snack for a busy day, whether I'm snacking on my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always good to go on good to go. And you love cracking open a nut and every shell. Why not taste the satisfying crunch? And just the in-shell option is just a classic favorite, right? Get snacking, grit cracking with them snacks that pack a punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And all right, we are back, and it looks like Dom has left the building. Elvis has left the building, and it's just the Matt Show. So I'm going to hop back in there real quick on Royce Lewis, and the reason being is the one thing I think that was going to happen with Royce Lewis last year, and I called it going into the season too, even though I was pretty high on him, was the risk factor of coming back from a torn ACL. You see it a lot with football players and stuff, like running backs and wide receivers and stuff that do a lot of running, etc. When they come back from an ACL injury, the hammies usually get, they deal with a lot of hamstring injuries, whether it's tightness or strain or things like that, where, it gets them out for quite some time because, you're putting strain on that new knee, and then therefore it's affecting the other joints and muscles around it. Now, being 2 years removed, which is, a lot better. Usually, you're like, okay, 6 months removed is when they start getting healthy, but usually it's the year aspect of when it is. We're about a year and a half out. I said 2 years, a year and a half out. We might see a little bit better. Maybe we'll see a little bit of speed. He walks away at 15 stolen bases. The kid is just a no-brainer for me. So since Elvis has left the building, I'm going to move on. I'm going to take my guy and let Dom come back with his after, and it's Luis Robert. I mentioned him at the top. I did drop him down in my rankings after a little, R&R session with revisiting what Luis Robert possible outcome could be with the White Sox. But one thing I will say is, a guy that's done this for a long time isn't just going to fall off a cliff, right? Luis Robert had in 2023 546 at bats, 90 runs, 36 doubles, a triple, 38 bombs, 80 ribs, 20 stolen bases, about a nice 264. For him to come out the next year and also deal with injuries and strains in his hamstrings, I believe, as well, is something that can seriously cause you to have some, lapse in the stats. And he wasn't a picture of consistency either. I mean, but you look at the counting stats in general, and the pace isn't atrocious. 393 at bats, 47 runs, 19 doubles, 14 home runs, 35 ribs, 23 stolen bases at least. And the worst part about it was the 224 batting average. Look, he was chasing a lot, and he was trying to just kind of get a rhythm. He was super atrocious towards the end of the season. But I think that, between getting hurt, pretty much the team selling out, I think that he was maybe a little discouraged. But coming into this year, he's going to want to get traded, and he's going to want to have, for somebody to actually trade for him. So he's going to have to perform. 1, 2, he's a dog, and he's going to compete. Luis Robert has all the upside in the world. The team isn't much worse than what it was 2 years ago when he did it. I understand maybe the names aren't there, but the year he did it, Tim Anderson was absolutely caca-doo-doo. He completely fell off, and he was one of the focal points of the offense of the team. Eloy Jimenez couldn't buy a hit for the life of him. And at that point, I can't even tell you who else was on that team. Oscar Colas was kind of floating around. So the cruddy team that is now assembled is no better than the team when he did what he did in 2023. So Luis Roberts should be, at least at worst, be able to repeat that as long as he's able to stay healthy.
Well, I'm back. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. Sorry about that. A little delay there. But, Matt, you're right. I love me some Luis Robert. He has all the talent in the world. I beg to differ. I just wish the team was better, man. The team is real garbage right now. I know that the team in 2023 is a little bit better. At least, Moncada had a good year that year. They had Elvis Andrus, who was out there stealing bags.
You really threw out like Moncada, really?
Yeah, but no, he had a good year that year. I mean, he had a good year. There's a couple guys. Benintendi had a good year. There was guys, at least they're scoring runs, getting on base. I don't think they have the same type of talent.
When you say good year, you mean like, okay, they had more than 40 runs and like 5 home runs?
Benintendi was all right, and Eloy was okay that year. He hit 270 at 18 bombs. Vaughn hit 260 at 21 bombs. Scored 67 runs, 80 ribbies. I think the team overall just had better talent and upside than the team does this year. I think he gets traded, though. I honestly think that Luis Robert has to get traded for the White Sox to have any chance of building back up, because their farm system, has a couple guys down there. They got a bat and arm, not really too much deeper than that, to be honest with you. But I think that's the route for Robert to get the rebirth, the life that he needs under him again. Because I think until that happens, I think we're dealing with a situation where he'll be, not motivated to play, almost like Soto was last year in Washington, where the question started to rise about Soto. Hey, what's going on with Soto? Why is he not playing like Soto?
2 years ago now, but yeah.
Yeah, it was never really a question of the talent. It was more a question of, can he, get to where he needs to go, winning team. And then look, Soto goes over to, the Padres, got a little bit better, goes over to the Yankees, has a career season. Bet you he has a monster season with the Mets this year. I think the same thing's going to happen with Robert. I think he gets traded probably around the All-Star break, goes to, a contender, bounces back. So you kind of draft him with that in mind. Right now, ADP is outfielder 27 on Luis Robert. I have him at 20. I'm way higher than ADP. I think Matt has him even higher than I do. So we like Luis Robert around here. There's 40 home run upside with like 25 steals, easy, maybe even more, maybe a 40-30 season. And the cards could be for Luis Robert with like a 275 batting average. Counting stats, once you get traded, those will be fine. I think until then, questionable. But when you draft him right now, it's like outfielder 3. I think that's perfect spot. I think you take him there with confidence every time.
Yep. And one last thing before I leave here, because I got to leave a little early. But Listener League, look, there's 2 ways you're going to do this. You are going to sign up for the subtext, and we're going to announce the whole league, at least not the whole league, a quarter of the league in about 2 weeks. Sign up for subtext now. That's part 1. Part 2, and not only do you have to sign up for subtext, but you would then have to share. You get an extra entry by sharing every post we post on X, Insta, and wherever else you may have our stuff. Every post gets you an extra entry. Whoever has the most entries will go get more spots in the random we call it selection. That is the rules. But the key one is you have to be a subtext member. So sign up for subtext. It's in the link description below. So check that out and then share a repost to make sure you're in that Listener League. Last year it was so much fun. And this year, Dom and I are sharing a team so that we can get an extra person in this year. So check it out. Do it. Links in the description below. Peace out.
All right, folks, I'm taking over here for you. So let's jump into the next player. I want to talk about Triston McKenzie right now. You guys might say, Dom, he was horrible last year. Why are we even talking about him? Well, you know what? He's the guy who's dealt with injuries. We kind of knew it was coming with the skinny frame. I heard he's put on a little bit of weight. The velocity's up spring training. I know he had a bad second start. The first one was pretty good, though. As I mentioned, velocity's up across the board for McKenzie. I like to see that. He's still fairly young, only going to be 27 years old this season. And, a guy who dealt with injuries in the way he did, in 2023 and last year in 2024. I think if there's health there, I think we could expect him to bounce back a bit. He might not get back to the 2022 season, where McKenzie had 30 starts at 2.96 ERA, 191 innings, 190 strikeouts, and 0.95 whip. But, I think there's a world where he could be a mid-3s ERA guy, around a K per 9. The whip could be serviceable because he's honestly always been pretty steady with the whip, throughout his minor league career. So I think that's something that we could at least see, we could see happen. The ADP right now is like $3.99 on McKenzie. You have to scroll crazy far down here to even find him. It's actually SP 135, pick 445. Might have moved up a little bit after that first good spring training start, but I mentioned the second one wasn't as good. So I still think there's a world where people are sleeping on Triston McKenzie. And with that last starting pitcher pick, end of your draft, you could throw the dart that way. The Guardians are a decent team as well. So I honestly think, he is somebody that we could take at the end of our drafts and not worry about too much. And then the worst case scenario, as Matt always say, you drop them and then you follow us, or you sign up for Subtext and we got you with those waiver wire pickups every week. And then on Subtext are even detailed, goes even further deeper, and then we have them ranked. And it's a really fun time in there, as Matt was talking about before. Let's jump into this last guy. Let's talk about Jesus Luzardo, another guy that's been a mock draft darling of Matt and I. We kind of been taking him in every mock draft. Goes over from those Marlins to the Phillies this year. And just another guy that has all the talent, just dealt with injuries last year, only made 12 starts. But you know what? If you take the 2022 and 2023 season combined, Jesus Luzardo was really, really good. It was 50 starts for Luzardo over that time with a 3.48 ERA, 279 innings, 328 strikeouts, and he had a 1.15 whip over that time. He was really good. So, he's a guy, the talent's there, goes to a team that's way better than Miami. The park isn't as good as it was in Miami, but the team surrounding him is a lot better, so the wins upside's there. He's a guy, could throw 150 innings, could have 175, 180 strikeouts. I think the ERA is going to be mid threes. I think the ERA is going to be mid threes. Like I said, I think the whip's going to be maybe not great. It could be like a 1-2-ish whip because whip's never been Luzardo's strong point. But like I said, there's a world where Luzardo pays off because his ADP, it's not as good as McKenzie's. And probably somebody who's moving up with a good spring training because he honestly hasn't even allowed a hit or a walk yet this spring training as of this recording. 2 innings, 2 strikeouts, 6 batters faced. Looked pretty good so far. But as I said, Jesus Luzardo right now, pitcher SP 78, pick 264. Take him all